Welcome back to Kind Regards to the show. Meditation for a lot of people is kind of weird. It's kind of esoteric. It's a strange practice. Most people don't do it. Most people's parents really don't do it. And most people's grandparents don't. It feels as if they couldn't even understand it. Like it wouldn't. There's no place in their sort of conceptual worldview that allows for sitting and doing nothing to be a really beneficial practice that can, change their lives or whatever. So I'm just going to get a blanket. It's so cold. All right, I've got my knee blanket so we can continue. Meditation is strange, and Sam Harris explains this strangeness not as any kind of like reasonable, rational thing, like, oh, it's strange because it's only for certain types of people, or it's strange because, it belongs in the East and the Eastern cultures are good for it, but in Western cultures, it doesn't make any sense. No, instead he says it's just a blind spot. It's just a cultural blind spot. And he likens it to, the 1950s when we had two huge blind spots. One was that everybody smoked cigarettes, which is nuts, like completely insane. And we even had doctors kind of saying like, oh, this cigarette is better than this cigarette. I smoke Camels. Absolute insanity based on nothing, no reason, no logic, no. It was just a cultural oversight in the West. And similarly, exercise used to be a thing that only a really strange person did. It was not common to go for a walk, even just for leisure, not even for exercise, for leisure. It was strange to go for a walk. That was something that a peculiar person did in the 50s in the United States and in many Western countries, let alone running or, doing a high intensity interval workout or something. All of these things were really quite strange and not common. Why is this? At the time people would have thought, oh, there's perfectly good reasons for this. But really it was just an oversight. It was just the culture not recognizing something as a good thing to do, And this happens all the time. And one of the things that I've recently identified as sort of one of these cultural blind spots, it feels is altruism. As a childless person, who is relatively free in this world, I'm not constantly fighting for survival or for, making the next paycheck. I'm really lucky. I don't, but, I think most of us watching this are not constantly in sort of self-preservation mode. And so we have a little bit of time. We have a little bit of time to watch YouTube videos about self-helpy kind of ideas. And, we have time to work on little projects maybe, or pursue some kind of education that we don't need to survive, but will help us in the future. So when we have a bit of this room, a bit of this space to sort of breathe and to decide what our priorities are, decide what we want to do for work, what kind of a house we want to live in, what kind of values we want to motivate us. I feel like altruism is overlooked, to work for others, to do things for others, to dedicate oneself to others is, it's really rare. It's really rare amongst the people that I know and the people that I talk to, and also just in the lifestyles that I sort of shallowly, observe in the world out there. And now why is this? I suppose it's depending on your sort of political worldview. It might come from different sources, but I think we can all sort of identify some things here. One is that we're a more atomized society than ever before. Community has broken down in pretty significant ways. So has family, And generally speaking, we're more lonely and more individualistic than we have been in the past. These are pretty broad generalizations, sociological, I suppose, generalizations, but I don't think they're that controversial. We live in a sort of consumer culture that that says you are very important. You need to satisfy your desires because you deserve it and you work so hard. You know, you toil so hard in the HR department that if you can't eat a sticky day pudding when you get home, then what is the world coming to? You know, treat yourself, indulge. And we also live in a sort of social media world that asks us or demands in a way that we craft our identities and we, I don't know, like we become girl bosses, you know, and you know, it like cut out toxic people and you know, and if they don't recognize your true worth, then, you know, throw them to the wayside, you know. Oh, if they complain too much, then get rid of them, you know. And we're straight onto Tinder. We find a new friend, find a new person to have sex with, you know. The consumption mindset relies on selfishness. It relies on hedonism. It relies on us having our desires laid out for us by other people. Oh, wouldn't you like this? Wouldn't you like that? And then them providing it to us for money. And so it makes a lot of sense that when we think, oh, what do I want to do? What should be done? The question is morphed. I just did it then. The question is morphed instantly into what do I want? How to satisfy my desires? What are my desires and how to satisfy them? This makes a lot of sense in our culture, but I think it is insane. I think it is like a maybe not insane, but it's a recipe for misery, right? If there's a great quote, I'll put it up on the screen, and then I'll misquote it here. Someone, I think it's Shantideva, says, "Everything which I do for my own happiness causes me suffering. Everything I do for someone else's happiness makes me feel peaceful, you know, makes me feel happy." And I think we all know that like the hedonism, it's a treadmill. It's a never-ending treadmill. It's just get on, satisfy this desire. You get a fraction of a second or maybe 2 seconds or maybe no seconds at all of satisfaction. And then all of a sudden there's another desire to be fulfilled. You finish washing the dishes and then you instantly go, oh, I've got to do that thing. Oh, I've got to send that email. Oh, I've got to watch that TV show. You know, we're always holding our breaths. The hedonistic mindset is holding your breath until you get somewhere and then you go, and then you hold it again until you get to the next thing. You know, I was toiling at uni for 3 years, and how long did I enjoy the satisfaction of having finished a degree? You know, for, I don't know, 10 minutes, one evening of partying, I was pretty happy. And then the next thing comes along and I got to go to work. I got to do the next thing. Our desires are a bottomless pit. I don't know if I'm like beating a dead horse here, especially for the sort of people who watch this channel. You might be like, yeah, we get it. You talk about hedonism all the time. But desire is a bottomless pit. It can never actually be fulfilled. New desires rise up all the time. And in fact, by satisfying our desires, we're actually feeding our desire for desires even more so. So the more you indulge, the more sugary foods you eat, the more you want sugary foods, and it just keeps going. It just keeps going. And this is the same for status at work, money, you know, nice comments on YouTube from the viewers, you know, nice dinner parties with friends that we'll remember forever, you know, even from the least wholesome stuff like, you know, taking pills and going clubbing or whatever, and all the way up to the most wholesome stuff like having nice friends and getting sweet comments from YouTube video watchers that make me feel good. It's all a bottomless pit. And what isn't a bottomless pit? Altruism is not that. Altruism feels good to do, it feels good to remember, and it feels good to have done to you. Altruism is, I would say, always good. It is always good to be there for other people, to give to other people, to work for other people, to reduce the suffering of other people. It would be a very, very unique circumstance, a very contrived circumstance, that you would go, well, what about this? What about if you only have $10 and if you give that $10 away, then you die instantly and there's no way for you to make any money? And then do you give $10 away? You know, whip up that example and yes, sure. You know, and I suppose on a more concrete, pragmatic level, there are people who need to take care of themselves first, you know, who are struggling so much that to shift focus outwards would be harmful to themselves. And I understand that, you know, especially, you know, people with kids or people who are taking care of people who are ill and things like that. There's a lot of huge demands there. So I'm not, there are exceptions to this. There are reasonable exceptions to this. But generally speaking, if we've got freedom to make choices, we've got freedom to decide what we're going to do in our lives, the huge blind spot is dedicating our lives to others. And I feel it in my own life. I feel it in my own life when I'm looking down the barrel of decisions all the time. The default mode of operating, I believe, in the West for, I guess, just people like me, that's all I can speak about is me, is to think, what do I want? How to satisfy my desires? And pivoting away from that, I think is really noble. It's really good. And not only is it good for other people and it's like ethical and all this stuff, but it's also good for us. It's also good for ourselves. It is something that satiates us in a way that the sugary delights of you know, desire and hedonism do not. You know, they instantly fade and are replaced with more desires, more cravings for the sugary treat. And altruism actually feeds us, actually makes us feel more whole and feel more calm and feel like we're good to be here, we're okay to be here. And like the world is glad that we're here, you know. And there's a million ways of doing this. You know, the obvious way is to, you know, give heaps of money to charity or something. But there's a million ways of doing it. And well, I suppose it's up to you to figure out what that is. I'm trying to figure it out in my own life. Writing and doing these videos is sort of a way that I do that. It's a way of me spending my energy not on myself, but on other people. Although there's some satisfaction here in it for myself. It's difficult to make these videos. It's vulnerable. I'm afraid that they're not good enough. I'm afraid that people won't like them or they won't like me. You know, there's some costs involved here, and they take time and effort and energy. And after 3 hours of making videos or 3 hours of writing, I'm exhausted. And, you know, this is not a big pity party, but what I'm saying is that I'm trying to do something that there's a cost involved. For me, I'm working hard. I'm trying to do something for other people that helps them, and that's one way that I'm doing it. I'm also thinking about a career in the future that is aside from all of this, that I'll feel similarly satisfied, you know, in having helped other people, but. Yeah, I suppose hospitality. I think about hospitality a lot. That's one of the things. Being on the road, I'm still on the road, even though I'm in a house. I'm in someone else's house. Hospitality is something that I miss. I miss it so much. I miss inviting people into my home and feeding them food, you know, and providing them with a nice environment that they can relax in. They don't have to worry about doing the dishes, and they get to eat nice food and be with nice people and relax and have a good time, laugh and enjoy themselves. This is a lovely thing to do. And, you know, sure, we can do it, you know, twice a year, but we can also put in effort and do it more often than that. You know, when people are sick and they can't cook for themselves and they're going to have to order Uber Eats while they're sick because they live on their own, you know, we can cook for them. We can provide them, you know, the hospitality of a home cooked meal that is good for them and nourishing for them, that they wouldn't have got otherwise. I guess I'm just stuck in like listing nice things that you can do for people, which maybe is a lost cause. But I just think that it's a significant point to say that we have a cultural blind spot, that cultural blind spot is doing things for others rather than for ourselves. and that ultimately, I think the truth of the world, if you listen to Adlerian psychology or you listen to Buddhist sort of philosophy or Buddhist, ideas, if you, we hear it again and again that doing things for ourselves, selfishness is the way to hell. It is the way to suffering. It's a lost cause. We see it in movies all the time, and we also know that the happiest people out there are the ones who serve others, the ones that love others, the ones that are selfless as much as they can be, and who try to cultivate this kind of outwards, aiming their energy, aiming their emotional capacities outwards to the world, to helping those who are less fortunate than them. We know that those people are happy about it. They don't regret it. The recipe is there. The recipe for freeing ourselves from the hedonistic treadmill is there, and it is altruism, and it is a huge blind spot. It is something that is constantly overlooked. You never see it on a billboard. You never see it on on a talk show. Excuse me. You never see it on, the Today, like a morning show. Imagine that on a morning show. It's insane. On the news, a reminder that you're not the most important thing in the world, and that you should act for other people, and that just satisfying your desires it would never make it on commercial TV. It would never make it on the news. And yet it is the secret, the barely hidden secret of being a person in the world and being happy and glad to be here, and feeling like the world is happy and glad that you're here too. All right, I hope this is useful. I hope this is nice to hear and not this terrible pressure to hear. I don't want to sound like I'm preaching here, because I really struggle with it too. I'm being honest about that. Most of my days, every day, are filled with me satisfying my own desires. And especially now, I'm not meditating right now. So I do feel like I'm on this loop all the time of think these thoughts, that'll make you feel good. Oh, listen to this audiobook, that'll make you feel good. Oh, listen to this song. Oh, this song's bad, I don't like it. Skip. Otherwise, what's going to happen? I go into a cafe and there's a bad song playing. I go, oh no, I'm on the treadmill, and it wouldn't surprise me if you are too. And it wouldn't surprise me if I'm on the treadmill for the rest of my life, with little flashes of altruism and selflessness in between. It's not an easy path to walk, but it is good and it is nourishing. I believe that in my own instances of doing nice things for people. That's what I believe. So, no pressure. You're here to explore this. You're here to figure out your own life and figure out what works for you, and figure out whether this is true, whether this is the right time for you to focus outwards, or whether it's the right time to focus inwards. And I'm not here to judge you, and say it's always good to do this or it's always bad to do that. I'm not here to say that. I'm here to let you guys know where I'm at, and if it translates, you'll know that it translates, and you'll know that it hits that spot for you, and you go, you know what, I think he's right. So yeah, that's up to you guys. If it resonates, brilliant. If it doesn't, chuck it in the bin, go watch some other stuff. Anyways, thanks very much for watching. I appreciate you being here. It's a real privilege to have your attention, to have your time. And I know it's not cheap, So yeah, thanks very much. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. There's a Substack link for the articles that I write. Most of them are pretty old now, but I think they're still pretty good. They're about 2,000 words. It's a 10, 15-minute read. And I try and make them funny and meaningful. And I take ages to polish them. It's not like they're not stream of consciousness. I take a whole week to edit and refresh them and try and make them really good. So if you like that kind of stuff, that's over there. And if you want to listen to this instead of watch it, or watch it instead of listen to it, there's a YouTube and a Spotify link below. So you can find the content how you like it. But yeah, thanks very much for being here. I appreciate your time. See you later. Thanks.